The Kareth Dominion was a name spoken only in whispers. For generations they had ruled vast stretches of the Orion Arm with fire and steel, building an empire of slaves and corpses. Entire species had been reduced to servants or soldiers, for their war machine, and those who resisted were erased from memory. To the oppressed, hope was a dangerous fantasy, one punished by extermination. Among the conquered were the Zalari, a fragile crystalline species who glowed faintly under starlight. Unlike the warrior races the Dominion enjoyed breaking, the Zalari had never been soldiers. They were artisans, builders, and dreamers. Their crystalline bodies resonated in haunting tones when they spoke, like music carved from glass. For a century, they had been forced to mine rare minerals for their masters, their voices silenced, their songs stolen. On a desolate mining outpost orbiting a dead moon, one spark of rebellion flickered. A group of Zalari workers had sabotaged a Dominion shipment, delaying tribute. It was an act so small it should have gone unnoticed. But the Kareth noticed everything. Now their fleet was on its way to make an example. In the cavernous ruins beneath the mining colony, a young Zalari named Sira stood before an ancient device that pulsed with dormant power. She was no warrior, no leader, merely a survivor clinging to scraps of courage. The transmitter had been discovered decades ago, buried under the rock, but the Dominion had dismissed it as inert. They had never recognized its design. Sira, however, had spent years studying it in secret. She knew it was not Kareth, not Zalari, something older, something human. Now, with the Dominion's warships already crossing the void, she activated it. The device whined to life, its signal tearing across subspace, bypassing Kareth jammers with ease. The crystals of her body trembled as she spoke, into the void, her voice trembling but clear. This is Sira of the Zalari. To any who hear me, we beg for salvation. The Kareth Dominion comes to end us. We are unarmed. We are enslaved. We cannot endure their chains any longer. Her words stretched across the void, traveling further than she could imagine, past trade hubs, pirate dens, and mercenary relays. Most who heard dismissed it as another dying people's final cry. Nothing unusual in a galaxy ruled by cruelty. But the signal did not stop. It reached beyond the mapped corridors of known space, past forgotten relay stations and derelict satellites. It reached Earth. For centuries, Earth had been silent. Humanity had once shaken the galaxy with wars that scarred entire sectors, wars so violent that even victors dared not keep records. When they withdrew, they closed their borders, vanished from trade, and erased their presence from diplomatic halls. To the younger races, humanity had become myth. A bogeyman used to frighten children or whispered in cautionary tales, "Do not awaken the Deathworlders." Yet the humans had not been idle. Behind their isolation, Earth built and rebuilt, forging. Fleets the galaxy had never seen, weapons meant not for conquest but for judgment. They remembered every insult, every cruelty once shown to them by the galaxy. They remembered chains and whips and the long night when humanity had been prey. When the Zalari's message reached them, the words echoed like a scar reopening. Slavery. In the Grand Chamber of the United Terran Command, the recording played again and again. Generals, admirals, and statesmen sat in silence, the crystalline plea hanging heavy in the air. Humanity had sworn never again to suffer chains. Now, another. People begged for release from them. Finally, Admiral Marcus Cade rose. He was a man carved from iron and fire, his eyes cold as the void. His voice carried the weight of centuries of human wrath. "They asked for salvation," he said. "They will have it, but the Dominion will know humanity's answer." The chamber erupted into grim approval. The order was given. Earth's hidden fleets, long silent, began to stir. Shipyards lit up with activity. Weapons long dormant were awakened. The Kareth Dominion fleet arrived at the Zalari outpost with the same casual cruelty they carried everywhere. 30 warships, sleek, armored vessels bristling with plasma, lances, descended from hyperspace like vultures circling carrion. Their commander, High Centurion Varric, stood tall on the bridge of his flagship, satisfied at the inevitability of another conquest. "Signal the outpost," Varric ordered. His voice was smooth, practiced, the tone of a predator used to obedience. "Inform them that their resistance has been noted and that their lives are forfeit." The message was transmitted, and in the outpost's control chamber, Sira and the other rebels huddled together. They had no weapons, no fleet, no way to fight back. The Dominion would crush them, as it had countless others. Still, Sira clung to the faintest ember of hope that her signal had reached someone, anyone who might hear. The Kareth fleet deployed in formation, their warships casting shadows over the small moon as they prepared to unleash fire. Slave soldiers aboard their carriers cheered, eager for blood, while Dominion officers sneered at the thought of silencing one more uprising. Then space itself groaned. It began as a ripple in the void. At first, the Kareth thought it was a malfunction in their sensors, but the ripples became distortions, tearing through the fabric of hyperspace, and then shadows emerged. Ships, hundreds of them. They arrived without fanfare, without warning. Dark, angular silhouettes spread across the system like predators encircling prey. Their hulls were unlike any Dominion had seen. Matte black, jagged, bristling with weaponry that hummed with restrained violence. They bore no banners, only names, etched into their steel skins in a language alien yet unmistakable. Retribution, Nemesis, Vengeance, Iron Requiem. For the first time in decades, Kareth officers hesitated. "Identify those ships," barked Varric. The AI systems scrambled through their databases. The answer came back cold, carrying a weight that silenced the bridge crew. Terran. Human. Varric sneered. "So the legends are true, Deathworlders." He turned to his officers. "They hide behind myths and shadows, but they are only flesh, primitive apes. Break them, and the galaxy will remember the Kareth as the slayers of humanity itself." But as the Kareth readied their weapons, the humans fired first. The opening salvo was not a probing shot, nor a warning. It was judgment. From the human, fleet streaks of light tore across the void. Kinetic railfire, projectiles hurled at a fraction of light speed. A Dominion cruiser disintegrated before its shields could cycle, splitting into fragments that burned in the atmosphere of the dead moon below. Another ship erupted in flames, its crew silenced before they could even scream. The Kareth formation broke in shock. No enemy in living memory had ever struck them so quickly, so decisively. "Return fire!" Varric roared. Plasma lances ignited, slave-piloted fighters swarmed, and the void became a storm of fire. Yet where Dominion fleets usually dominated, now their weapons met something terrifying. Precision. The humans moved with ruthless coordination, their ships weaving as if bound by one will. Every Dominion shot struck nothing but empty space. Every human volley, by contrast, found its mark. Torpedoes with warheads of tungsten and antimatter carved through Dominion armor as though it were cloth, and the humans did not hesitate. On the bridge of the flagship Iron Requiem, Admiral Cade stood unmoved, his expression carved from stone. Around him, the human crew moved with quiet efficiency, their voices calm despite the chaos outside. "Enemy attempting to retreat," reported a lieutenant. Cade's eyes narrowed. On the tactical display, Dominion ships angled away, trying to escape hyperspace before annihilation. But the exits were already blocked. Human destroyers, faster than the Dominion could react, had encircled them, hemming them in like wolves around a wounded beast. Cade gave a single order, his voice cold and final. "Leave none standing." the void lit with fury. Human battleships unleashed coordinated barrages, tearing through the Dominion fleet piece by piece. Each Kareth ship that tried to flee was executed with mathematical precision. Their mighty flagship itself, Varric's Pride, was torn open mid-broadside, its hull splitting in two before its reactor went critical. The explosion lit the dead moon for minutes afterward, a false sunrise over a graveyard. When silence fell, nothing remained of the Dominion fleet. Not one ship had survived. In the days that followed the annihilation of the Kareth fleet, the galaxy did what it always did best: gossiped. But these were not the idle whispers of trade disputes or border skirmishes. These were rumors that spread like wildfire, each retelling darker, sharper, more impossible than the last. The humans are back. The words were spoken first in hushed tones by smugglers who claimed to have seen the wreckage near the Zalari outpost. Within a week, mercenary guilds were repeating the story. Within 2, the whispers had reached every corner of known space. The accounts varied, colored by fear or hope depending on the speaker. Some said the humans had come in ships black as midnight, silent and merciless, tearing the Dominion apart with weapons beyond comprehension. Others claimed the humans themselves were monsters, not flesh and bone, but machine and shadow, death-world predators shaped into war. But the conclusion was always the same. The Kareth Dominion had faced an enemy it could not match. In taverns, along the rim, alien merchants toasted to the Dominion's suffering. In slave barracks across occupied worlds, prisoners quietly sang forbidden songs of freedom, their voices trembling with the first taste of hope. Yet in the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, the whispers became arguments. Delegates from 100 species gathered, their voices clashing in heated debate. "They are saviors," declared the Vornathi delegate, his tendrils quivering with excitement. "The humans broke the Dominion fleet when no one else dared. They fight for the enslaved, not for conquest. Should we not welcome their return?" "Saviors," spat the Kretel ambassador, his scales flashing with contempt. "You call executioners saviors. Do you know nothing of their history? Humanity is not merciful. They burned empires greater than the Kareth before our ancestors had even built ships. If they are back, then none of us are safe." A chorus of voices erupted. Some agreed, some objected. Fear and hope battled across the chamber floor, and over it all, the Speaker of the Council whispered what all were truly thinking. They are Death-worlders. If the stories are true, their wrath will not stop with the Dominion. Beyond the Council's chambers, chaos rippled through the Dominion itself. Systems once considered loyal began to falter. Governors whispered treachery, generals argued over retreat or retaliation. Slave armies deserted, emboldened by the myth of human liberators. In cities where Kareth banners once hung proudly, graffiti appeared in the shadows. Crude drawings of human warships, words scrawled in broken languages. Freedom comes. The Dominion High Command, furious and desperate, tried to choke the rumors with fear. They executed entire villages suspected of rebellion. They broadcast endless propaganda, insisting that the ape invaders were only a fleeting threat, but their efforts backfired. The more they killed, the more their subjects looked to the stars, wondering if the Death-worlders would soon arrive. And arrive they did. The humans moved through Dominion territory like a storm. They did not send envoys. They did not pause to negotiate. Wherever they found slavers, they destroyed them. Slave ships were intercepted and obliterated. Outposts were struck with terrifying precision, human fleets appearing without warning, reducing Kareth defenses to rubble, then vanishing again before reinforcements could arrive. The galaxy watched in awe as reports stacked higher and higher. Dominion fleets, once invincible, were shattered in hours. On one occasion, an entire armada sent to defend a supply line simply vanished. its last broadcast a garbled scream before static. Days later, Dominion wreckage drifted into neutral space, scattered across millions of kilometers. To humanity, this was not a war of conquest. It was not politics. It was vengeance. Every Kareth ship burned was a message. Slavery would not be tolerated. On the bridge of the Iron Requiem, Admiral Cade stared at the tactical displays with cold satisfaction. The Dominion had begun to crumble, but he knew this was only the Aishao beginning. The galaxy was watching, weighing their choices. Would they see humanity as saviors or as executioners? In truth, it did not matter. Humanity had made its decision. The Kareth Dominion had been built on terror. Its war fleets were unmatched, its chains unbreakable, its reputation carved into the bones of those it conquered. But terror is a fragile thing, and once broken, it crumbles faster than stone. Humanity had shattered it in weeks. Everywhere the Deathworlder fleets appeared, the Dominion faltered. On the mineral world of Kalros, the humans bypassed fortresses and struck directly at the orbital foundries that supplied Dominion war machines. The Kareth garrison, starved of weapons and fuel, collapsed within days. On Center Prime, a world where slaves outnumbered masters 10-1, the arrival of a single human task force was enough to spark a planet-wide uprising. The humans did not conquer. They armed the enslaved, trained them in brutal, efficient tactics, and then withdrew, letting rebellion spread like wildfire. The Dominion High Command struggled to comprehend their new enemy. The humans did not behave like rational powers. They did not hold territory. They did not negotiate. They did not demand tribute or borders. Wherever they went, they dismantled the Dominion piece by piece. Shipyards burned, supply chains severed, communication hubs silenced. What the Kareth could not grasp was simple. Humanity was not seeking victory. Humanity was seeking punishment. High. Centurion Varric's death during the first battle sent shockwaves through the Dominion fleet. His replacement, Grand Marshal Korath, swore to crush the humans with overwhelming force. They are but apes with metal, he boasted to the Dominion Council. They bleed, and when they bleed, they will fall. But even as he gathered his forces, Dominion territory rotted from within. Slave revolts erupted faster than they could be contained. Garrisons defected. Logistics collapsed. For centuries, the Dominion had thrived on its aura of invincibility. Now, with every rumor of human victory, that aura dissolved. Still, Korath believed sheer numbers would prevail. He gathered the largest fleet the Dominion had assembled in centuries. Thousands of warships, battle-hardened and loyal. His plan was simple. Overwhelm the humans in one decisive confrontation, annihilate their flagship, and scatter their legend before it consumed the galaxy. The trap was set near the twin suns of the Arvos system. Dominion scouts leaked false intelligence about a vulnerable supply convoy, bait meant to draw the humans into range. Korath himself commanded from the heart of the formation, his fleet coiled like a predator ready to strike. When the human fleet arrived, smaller than expected, Korath laughed. "So this is the wrath of Earth? A handful of ships to challenge the Dominion? Crush them!" The Dominion armada surged forward. Plasma lances tore through space. Slave fighters poured from carriers. And for a moment it seemed the humans had finally overreached. But then the trap closed on the wrong prey. The human fleet did not flee. It split, scattering like shards of glass, drawing the Dominion into pursuit. Korath pressed harder, certain he had them surrounded, until the void rippled. Hyperspace tore open, and from the shadows emerged the rest of humanity's armada. It was not hundreds of ships. It was thousands. The Dominion fleet found itself encircled. What followed was not a battle. It was an execution. Human strategy was merciless, adaptive, and utterly foreign to Dominion doctrine. Where the Kareth relied on brute strength, the humans wielded precision. They targeted command ships first, severing lines of communication. They crippled carriers, leaving Dominion fighters blind and leaderless. They struck supply ships, ensuring that even survivors would starve in the void. Korath screamed orders, but his commands never reached half his fleet. The Iron Requiem led the charge, its broadsides tearing through battleships as though they were paper. Within hours, the Dominion Armada, centuries in the making, was nothing but wreckage drifting among the twin suns. When the last Kareth warship detonated, silence fell. The galaxy had watched the Dominion rise for centuries. Now, in the span of months, they had seen it broken. Not by coalition, not by diplomacy, not by gradual decline, by the hands of one species alone, the humans. And though the Dominion still had worlds, still had soldiers, its spine was shattered. Without fleets, without fear to sustain it, the Empire began to collapse under its own weight. The Kareth Dominion, once the galaxy's most feared empire, had become a carcass. Its fleets were ash, its supply lines severed, its colonies aflame. But the humans were not finished. Wrath, once awakened, does not rest until judgment is complete. The final blow came at the Dominion's homeworld, Karath Prime, a fortress planet wrapped in orbital rings and defensive bastions. For centuries, it had been unassailable, its presence alone enough to deter rebellion. Now it stood as the last symbol of Dominion authority. The human fleet arrived without ceremony, descending upon the system in silence. No ultimatum was sent, no parley requested. Humanity had listened to the pleas of the enslaved, not to the excuses of slavers. The battle for Karath Prime lasted only hours. Orbital stations were annihilated in the opening salvos. The planet's proud defense fleet disintegrated under relentless broadsides, their wrecks scattering across the skies of their homeworld like burning meteors. Cities on the surface trembled as orbital bombardments struck military complexes, silencing command centers one after another. On the bridge of the Iron Requiem, Admiral Cade watched with an expression that never wavered. His officers reported casualty figures, fleet positions, enemy retreats. He answered each report with the same calm directive. Continue. Leave nothing they can use to rise again. By the time the smoke cleared, Karath Prime was broken. Its war foundries were slag. Its ruling council chambers lay in ruins. The Dominion's proud banners, once draped across the capital spires, now burned in the winds of their own downfall. But humanity did not replace them with their own. That was what stunned the galaxy most. The humans did not annex territory. They did not crown themselves rulers over the fallen. Where Kareth chains had bound worlds, humans shattered them and left the rubble behind. On liberated planets, human commanders gathered the freed peoples and spoke with voices colder than void steel. You are free, but freedom is not a gift. It is a burden. Carry it well, defend it or lose it. But know this, should slavery rise again, should tyranny raise its hand, humanity will return, and next time, we may not leave anything standing. To some, these words were salvation. The Zalari, who had sent the desperate plea that started it all, wept openly when human ships delivered them weapons instead of shackles. Their crystal voices sang songs of freedom for the first time in a century, carrying through the ruins of their minds. They named humanity their saviors. But others trembled. To the free empires, humanity's verdict was terrifying. They had seen a death-world species dismantle the greatest tyrant in the galaxy without hesitation, without negotiation, without remorse. If humans could do that to the Kareth, what would stop them from turning their fury elsewhere? In the Galactic Council, debate raged once more. The Vornathi spoke of alliances and cooperation. The Kretel hissed of extermination and conquest. Yet beneath the noise, a shared understanding grew. Humanity had returned, and their wrath was not a legend. It was real. and it could fall upon anyone. On Karath Prime, the remnants of the Dominion begged for terms. A delegation of surviving lords attempted to sue for peace, offering wealth, territory, even submission. Admiral Cade rejected them without words. His fleet targeted their palace and erased it in a single strike. To humanity, no bargain could be made with slavers. The message rippled across the stars. The Kareth were gone. Humanity had not come to rule in their place. They had come to end an empire built on chains, and in doing so had left a warning carved into the bones of the galaxy: do not enslave, do not tyrannize. For when the plea for salvation is heard, it will summon not saviors, but humanity's wrath. On the Zilari homeworld, Sira stood beneath the glow of alien stars, watching as the last human warship departed orbit. The great black vessels faded into the void, leaving only silence behind. She remembered the words she had spoken into the transmitter: "We beg for salvation." She had expected mercy, a hand to lift them from despair. What she received instead was something far more terrifying: vengeance wrapped in steel, fury unleashed upon their oppressors. Yet as her people sang, Sira understood. Salvation had come. It had simply worn the face of wrath.